Yo, it's the Talk with B podcast, posting every Tuesday, where we talk about anything and everything, hosted by Branden-Lee, aka B. Lee. Come on and tune in with me on all social media platforms so we can have a talk. Yo guys, what's up? It's B. Lee here, and it seems like lately I've been having a lot of issues trying to get someone to host on my podcast. It seems like someone or something is not allowing me to grow and glow. But I don't let that stop me from doing what I want to do. And that's podcast and talk to people. You know, it's amazing because, I take Uber rides. I talk to a lot of different people. I hand out business cards. I do every step that I learned from Grant Cardone and other business people in the industry. And there's just one thing that you cannot do is you cannot break a hustle or a hustler, right? But see, there's some people in this world, I put this in my book and also my other podcasts before, there's some people in this world that want everything easy. They want to just hand it to them and they don't want to work for it. See, some of us entrepreneurs, we make it look easy, but no one ever sees what's going on in the background. So there's something I like. There's like a quote or a saying that I've heard once before where they say, it's what you're doing when no one is watching is what really matters, right? So when you see someone's success, and I'm not saying it's my success, but when you see someone successful, you're just seeing what you believe is the end result, right? But no one sees where it is and what took to get there. But moving forward, I'm not going to let society or whatever it is hold me back from trying to get my podcast out. It's amazing because, I do my research prior to, starting this podcast and also starting my business, which I don't have any longer. But I make sure that I set myself up for success, just like you should as well, right? I went to go get my hair cut yesterday. And I was talking to my barber, and I love talking to barbers. And the reason why is because, to me personally, I feel like a barber or a hairstylist, before there was like therapists and stuff, they were, your therapist, right? You would tell your barber everything, or your hairstylist, you talk to them everything because you're sitting in that chair for a while, so you talk to them about everything and anything. And we happened to talk about, we were talking about dating. For whatever reason, I haven't been on the dating scene for about a year or two, and it's here, at least where I live at, is it's different, right? It's really different, and I even talked to a lot of people who are in relationships, and they're married, they found who they want to be with, and that's great, and I'm like, that sounds amazing. That's beautiful for them, and that's great for them. But it seems to be a lot of people go out, I shouldn't say a lot, but some people go out and they go looking for love. They're looking for that match. They're looking for someone that can meet what they need in their life. And like, I bring up Grant Cardone a lot because I listen to this guy's podcast all the time. And he said one time, he's like, there's a saying that opposites attract. He's like, F that, I don't want an opposite. I want somebody that works just like me. And now me going from, I'm 30, my birthday was the other day. I'm 33 years old now. And the thing is, sometimes you mature and you get to a point in your life where you might outgrow, either your friends or your girlfriend, possibly even your wife. I met people who've been in relationships for 10, 20 years, and they made a lifestyle change, and they don't work with each other in their relationship any longer. And it's very, very different. But I learned, like, me being on my own for so long, being single, you learn to love yourself. So what I mean is, here's a good thing. If you can't love your own self, how can you love someone else? Think about it. If you don't love yourself, you don't appreciate yourself, and you can't be by yourself and enjoy yourself in your own time, how are you going to love somebody else if you don't love yourself first? Right? So when I was out in their dating scene, it's always, I don't want to say it's not a lot of women, but it's the different type of women. Because not all women are the same. I date all races, all ethnicities. So I really find out that I feel as though it's really like social media or just could be the way that you're raised or they're raised, however it is. Childhood trauma plays a lot in the way people think now. Which me personally, I'm trying to break that. I'm trying to break that cycle for my kids. I have kids as well. I have 3 beautiful children, and they didn't ask to be here. So I hustle and I do whatever I can to make sure I provide for them, because I'm not a piece of crap father. And I don't know how anybody else could be, because my kids look just like me. And for someone to just walk off out of their lives, or it's whatever reason, and it's not, sometimes it's not the male, sometimes it's the female. So that's why you gotta be careful who you lay down with and who you be with. But bouncing back to those dating scenes, it's, I think it's the media, right? I got a chance, I had 2 conversations, and I talked to my barber the other day, and we were talking, about relationships. That's what led me to, do this podcast today. And then I was talking to a guy that I work with, and he's having a problem in his relationship with his wife. And he called me roughly at like 10:30 at night. He said he was drinking, and he was like, I just wanted to give you a call because I wanted to talk to you. You're so easy to talk to. I was like, dude, you should have blew my phone up. Now, I was actually doing some work. I was working around in my house, and I missed this call. But and I'm mad I missed it because he had to vent and let that out about his wife. And he was saying how he had an issue with her because she was just nagging at him and making him very mad. And they've been high school sweethearts. They've been together for quite some time. And but he said she was just pissing him off, like pushing his buttons on purpose. And I kind of felt where he was coming from, because I've dealt with the same thing with my kid's mom. And me being able to reach my peace, like I said, I meditate. Being a business person, I have to be able to work with multiple people with multiple personalities. Maybe Suzanne, she doesn't like the way, somebody's approaching her or the way she's doing something. Or I have Jonathan, who I know what his goals are, and I know how he works. I know how he likes his setup to be when he comes to work. So me being able to work with multiple people, you learn their tendencies and their habits. I also read a book by Robert Greene, and I'm still working on finishing it, is The Laws of Human Nature. Okay. So us as humans, we're all the same, right? If I slit my wrist, I won't do that. But if I slit my wrist or I get a cut or a bruise, that blood's going to come out red, right? The only thing that separates us and makes us different is the mindset, the mentality, and also the color of our skin, right? So, but underneath all of this skin, we all got the same organs. We all got the same, well, we don't have the same blood type, but we all have blood, right? So you learn to work with multiple people. And he was saying that, he was nagging and stuff. And I sound just what I was going through with my kid's mom. And literally it's like, once you can see what's happening and seeing it unfold before you, you can use that to your advantage, right? To counter react. Okay. So, sir, I like, I think it's Newton's law. For every action, there's a reaction. So if I see the action getting ready to happen, there will never be a reaction. And if you kind of think about it, like really think deep, it's kind of like you're almost controlling the future, or you're controlling that person's actions after or before they do it, because you're able to see what they're getting ready to do. For instance, some people just like to get off on making people mad and angry. I don't know why. This happens to me a lot. I just call it stealing people's light. Or stealing their happiness or their joy, right? Before I talk about, I don't know if I did it in this podcast, but I talk about energy vampires, right? There's people that just come around. You ever talk to someone or you run into somebody at the store and you're like, oh, hey, how you doing? And then boom, they just unload all this negative stuff on you. You're like, oh, I did this, I did that, blah, blah, blah. And after you talk to them, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so drained. Like, what? I need to take a nap, or I need to get some coffee, or I need to go do something. There's people like that just do that. And I don't think that they do it because they consciously know. I think they just needed somebody to vent and someone to talk to. But this guy that I'm friends with, I work with, he was just saying his wife was just constantly nagging him. And he said he couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, and I told him, I was like, man, I wish I would have picked up your phone call, because he was drunk. And there's a saying that drunk minds speak the truth. I lost a lot of friends over, those alcohol talks because they speak the truth. So you come to realize, pretty much what I'm saying is you got to try to counter react, right? You got to keep your mind open to be able to see that some people are really just pushing your buttons. Even your boss, like me in the corporate world, even when I was working, when I was younger, now that, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm in business, in the business arenas, I know when my boss, when I was younger, they would be like, don't worry, no worries, you're fine. Or they start cracking down on you. You're like, hey, you need to do this. You need to get that done. You need to do this. You need to get this done. You're not doing this right. Constantly cracking down on you for like a week or two. 9 times out of 10, you're getting ready to get fired. So you have to be able to see those tendencies in people, right? And that's what I was talking about in the dating world and the dating scene. It's really different. I had a chance to speak with this girl. I talked about it before on my podcast, and I'm really upset because for whatever reason we unfolded, we fell apart. She lived in a whole other country. We were on a 24-hour time difference, so it was hard for us to talk and stuff. But I told that to my friend. I'm like, listen, sometimes you're with the wrong woman, and it's not all women that are like this. I said, but I talked to this woman across the country, and we met just randomly. And like I like to say, organically, we just met organically. And she thanked me for talking to her on the phone, which was like crazy. Now, some people were like, yo, they were worried, like, do you ever see her? I said, I've seen her before. We did, FaceTime and stuff like that. We use technology. But for me, it was refreshing. It gave me hope for humanity, and it made me see that not all women are the same. It kind of like brightened up my whole outlook on life. Like I said, she thanked me for being on the phone. She would just say, hey, Brandon, did you eat today? Did you eat? I'm like, yeah, I ate today. She said, well, make sure you eat. You got to eat something. All right. And she's like, watch what you eat. Even the conversations that we had were, I wouldn't say they were intellectual conversations, but they were just standard conversations, just talking. And that's one thing I think a lot of people lack is those conversations. Maybe it's because we're on our phones. I don't know. Maybe it's because, we're stuck in work or we don't know how to talk and communicate with each other. But there's a lot of no phone bars, which are coming up now. They're really big in the Virginia area, Northern Virginia area, and DC. And I think some Baltimore stuff that are popping up, which is great. It makes people talk. But it was different. It gave me a whole outlook, on life. Like even if I'm talking and I'd actually over talk her, she's like, oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Hold on. I'll sit back. And I'm like, this is great. I've never felt that before, but it gave me a whole outlook on life and made me see that not all women are the same. So I guess what I'm really saying is just you got to love yourself first before, you actually start to get out there in the dating room and or scene or anything else. Now, one thing that I want to talk about that's on my mind is just talking, period. Like, me personally, I talk to myself. And like when I'm out in public, I'll put my headphones in, but I'm like talking to myself. But what I'm talking about is I'm setting myself up for either YouTube or this podcast or talking myself through a problem. Now, me personally, people are like, oh my goodness, you're weird. You're different. There's something wrong with you. I love it. I love when people are like, yo, you're weird. There's something wrong with you. I said, yeah, there definitely something is. I mean, if you really look around inside this world that we're living in today, does it seem like everything is just normal? I mean, is it like the weirdos are the ones who come up with like a lot of good stuff? I mean, just for example, look at Billie Eilish. She's freaking super weird, right? She comes up with some great music, some great tunes. I mean, even like your comic writers and stuff. I think I like that. I like it. It's different. Even when I'm out in like public and stuff, even if I'm not talking to myself, I'll just be, grocery shopping or shopping at the store and I'm dancing around. I got my headphones in. People are looking at me like, man, what is this guy on? Is he on something? And no, I'm not. I love myself, right? So I'm enjoying life and what it is because I woke up this morning, right? I talked to my barber the other day. I told him, I was like, he said, yo, he goes to church and stuff. He's like, I'm blessed to be here and stuff like that. And I said, that's great. I said, even though I'm a spiritual person, I do believe, religion, and I don't like to push, I don't want to say spirituality, but I accept everybody's religion. Okay. I studied all different religions. I read the Bibles, the Quran, the Yahwehs, all that type of stuff. The Satanic Bible too. Don't stop listening because of that. And the reason why is because I want to be able to debate and see where someone else's mindset is based on their religion. But he was saying, he's blessed to be here this morning and stuff, my barber. And I was like, yo, that's dope. I said, me too. I said, I woke up and I put my shoes on this morning. And I was like, somebody else around this world did not wake up. So I told him, I was like, I woke up. I got something going on in my life. I said, so I tell myself, I got up, I put my shoes on. So what the F am I going to do with this life today? Right? What am I going to do with it? Right? Now, even though, I love myself, I seem like I'm happy-go-lucky, I'm going through some stuff in my background, in my personal life, but I'm not going to allow that to affect me and bring me down, and I'm not going to dwell on that for the rest of my life. I'm still going to continue to be a hustler. I'm still going to continue to be ambitious, and I'm still going to be able to climb that mountain to fight whoever or whatever energy or whatever it is that's stopping me to get to where I want to be, right? So even though I might fall back in like a depressing state or something like that, I'm going to try to find that light or whatever it is to be positive. I want to turn that negative into a positive and keep on powering through the day. And he was like, yo, I never thought about that. Another thing I like to talk about too is we ended up talking, my barber. Like I said, I was in business for a while, and a lot of the younger generation and guys, because I smoked weed was growing up, so I got my PA med card. And the funny thing is a lot of people they buy their weed off the street, whatever, all right, or whatever drug they like to do, whatever it is. And one thing I want to say too, because I had an Uber ride with this guy. I was taking him to a clinic, and methadone clinic, and this guy literally, he said he was saying that he used to do drugs and stuff, heroin or whatever and stuff like that. And I told him, he was like, yeah, I don't feel bad, it's drugs. I told him, I said, dude, everything is a drug. Listen, shopping is a drug. That can be an addiction. Food can be a drug. That's an addiction. Whatever is an addiction, even pornography, work, technology, whatever it is a drug. Drugs aren't just, weed, cocaine, meth, whatever is out there, fentanyl, whatever else is out there. I don't freaking know. So much stuff out there. But it's just not just those type of drugs. It could be food. It could be shopping. It could be whatever it is, right? But what I was getting at is the street crime, right, and stuff. And a lot of people, when I travel around and stuff, because I'm black, all right, it just plays a part in it. And I carry a book bag, right? So I'm black. I carry a book bag. I have a nice car. I have a Tesla Model X with some tinted windows, and I do that because I don't like the sun in there, and I don't like to be seen if I'm going down the road picking my nose or whatever. I don't want to be in a fishbowl, right? So, and plus it makes the car look a lot better. I'm not going to lie. So I get eyes, right? I get people constantly looking at me or something like, hey, can I get something? Oh, that's a boom, prime example. I was Ubering, doing some DoorDash stuff. I was delivering food, and I was sitting in the lobby waiting for the person to come down to get their food. Feeds are picked up. My feet are sitting on the couch. I'm chilling, waiting for them to come get their food from the lobby from me. And some young kid, I'm going to say his race because it does play the context. Young white kid, probably not even over 18. He's going to ask me, he's like, hey man, I had a good day today. He said, I like to do this. I'm trying in the nights. I'm like, all right, cool. He was like, he said, he said, where I can get some smoke from? I'm like, what are you talking about? He was like, he put his hands on like he was smoking a joint. I'm like, what the F? I said, yo, get out of here. So what are you talking about? So, because I was sitting in a lobby delivering someone's food, and I'm black, I had to look like I was a drug dealer, I guess, which is crazy. And I get that a lot. But what I was telling my barber the other day, is I had a business, I had over 20 people, I had about 20 people working for me at one time, between, contractors, subcontractors, and also regular W-2 employees. So I had some 1099s and some W-2s. I told him, I said, one of my employees one time, they were working for me. They said they wanted to buy a house, and they worked full time, and they were working for me in the cleaning industry, working part time. And he said, I want to use this money, for my part-time job to be able to make my income or be able to put down for my down payment for my house. And I was like, you know what? That sounds freaking great. In the back of my mind, I'm like, this is awesome. That's really cool. I'm providing this guy a future legitly, right? Legal, clean money, right? I'm providing him a future so he can buy his first house. So you know what? I gave him more hours, right? I gave him more hours. I even cut my hours back some from the buildings and stuff that I was doing because I still work. And so he can get his down payment for his house. Well, come to find out, because I was still close to my employees, and that's one of the problems I had. I was close to my employees. He was taking that money, he was just going out. He was going out, buying drinks, having fun, whining and dining, which is fine. That's what you can do. But when he told me that, it made me a little bit devastated. But when he told me he wanted to buy that house or whatever, use that down payment, I was like, holy crap. I got to work harder on my end to be able to find him some more work because he wants to buy a house. And then I thought about it because I had some full-time employees too. I had about 5 full-time employees. And when you think about it, people say they want to be gangster and, selling drugs or whatever it is that they feel doing crime is gangster. There's nothing more gangster than being able to provide for someone's family legally and giving them a paycheck every week. I had my payroll on every week because I know what it's like to, struggle or, have that paycheck every week. It just makes a difference. So I did my payroll every week for my employees, and there's nothing more gangster than being able to give them legal, legit money every single time, right? Every week. They got a check they're dependent on, and they're there, right? It's there every time in their account, sometimes on Thursday at, 12 noon. All right. There's nothing more gangster than that. Instead of selling drugs or whatever it is, maybe it's the media. I don't know what it is, the mindset, maybe the size people community. And it's not the black community. There's white people that sell drugs too. There's all type of races that do this type of stuff. But I thought that was being gangster, right? And still to this day, even though, I closed my business down, that's freaking gangster. Still sitting back thinking about it. Now, then also the thing, people were asking, why you closed your business, I get that a lot. I was really good. I made my own proprietary products. Quite honestly, everyone thinks they're the best, but I really think I'm the best. I'm the best. I ain't gonna lie. I'm really good at cleaning and doing what I do, especially when it comes down to carpets. I'm a floor guy. That's what I love doing. I like doing floors, and I don't like cleaning, but I did it so I can get to where I wanted to be, right? So sometimes you got to suck that stuff up and to get to where you want to be. So now instead of, doing cleaning, like I said, I'm an entrepreneur. So now I'm in the transportation industry, and which I don't like, but I do it. I have a CDL and I kept up with it. But I do it because I have to. In life, you have to do things you don't like, right? To get to where you want to be. And I think that's what separates me from people like to say the black sheep or whatever. I don't care about that. But that separates the people who sit back and they hope for a paycheck to come, or they're sitting back hoping for hit the lottery or something like that. Nah, I'm whipping myself into action, and I'm going to go out there and be a go-getter. I'm a fisher and I'm a hunter. I talked about, the fishing in my first podcast with my grandfather. Sometimes you got to go hunt. And, when you're fishing, you might, hit the pond or the lake or wherever, the stream. Fish ain't biting that day. It might be biting a day or two before, but now, you're back there 2 or 3 days later, they ain't biting there anymore. So you're going to have to move. You're going to have to go where the fish go, right? So, you got to be that hunter, right? I guess it's in our human nature, going back to Neanderthals, we all got hunters inside of us, right? We all got that drive. You got to find it. You got to find that drive. But, so like I said, it's been hard trying to find people to come into the podcast. I'm professional about it. I've always been a professional type of person, always been a business person, regardless of what people think. And, I wrote a book. It's called Skits and Wits, and I'm getting ready to re-put this thing back out here because, I'm speaking some good stuff. It's a business book. There's a lot of slang in there. It's supposed to be in there, but I talk, a lot about the good things, what to do in business and what not to do and what went wrong with inside, my life and my business, but what got me to be to where I'm at today. Very forgiving person, very open-minded, and always looking for, a light at the end of the tunnel, or turning a positive into a negative, a negative into a positive. I feel like I'm dyslexic. So always turning a negative into a positive, whatever it may be. So, like I said, for whatever reason, I hand people, the cards and stuff, like, yo, hit me up and stuff, handing out cards and things. But I don't know if people are scared because they don't want to talk or they feel as though they can be, you can see their face or whatever. But I enjoy, just talking to people. So if you happen to hear this and you're in my area, you see me walking around talking to myself, just let you know that I am gearing up for another podcast or a YouTube video that I'm going to put out to make some amazing content for my listeners, my followers, and the rest of the world, or whoever or whatever else is watching. And I hope that you have a great and amazing day. And like I said, I'm late getting this podcast out because sometimes the universe or whoever or whatever holding you and also me back from getting to where we want to be. But let's keep on powering forward. Thanks for sticking with me and listening to the show today. And have a good rest of your week. Thanks for tuning in. It's B-Lee with the Talk with B podcast. I appreciate you tuning in today. And I want you to like and share and subscribe. And of course, always share the podcast. And hopefully we're going to have a nice episode for you next Tuesday.